What's up, guys? Catching some hang time here again. Welcome to the podcast. Ruben Lenten here at the Kitemana office. And as you know, in this podcast, we hang out with all sorts of people from the industry, whether they're pro athletes, someone doing something in marketing, or avid kiters themselves. Yeah, we like to catch hang time with everyone. But this time, it's a very dear old friend of mine and actually an owner of a kite brand. So how cool is that we get to catch up with, Jon Modica, the legend.
I don't know about legend, but
well, trust me.
Old friend, yes.
Old friend, yes.
Most
and
accurate
legend,
statement you've said.
Yeah, don't underestimate your talents, man. Like, you can do it all. Whether it's on the surfboard, on the foil, on the kiteboard, you can do it all, right?
I enjoy doing it all. I don't know if I do it well, but I enjoy it regardless.
Right. Well, you're making it look good, making it effortless, and it's good to have you here.
Thanks, man. This has been fun. I've been waiting for coming. Kiting my whole life and not coming to really one of the kite meccas feels weird to me. So this feels good.
That's where the magic happens. You can still learn a few tricks or two here.
I'm sure I could. I could also break a few bones, but
we do that here too.
Real conditions here. This is legit.
Nice. Well, you've been traveling all over the world, and you've been involved in the kiting industry for over 2 decades.
Yep.
What is your first impression rocking up to Kitemana?
Honestly, it's exactly what I thought. I thought I'd be impressed, and I thought I would feel like this is where I think we all aspire to be, and this is what when we feel our sport as being like a niche, very it's relative to football or tennis. We feel like we're a small sport, but when you get to come to places like this, not just Kitemana, but Amsterdam. You're like this feels as big as it is to me.
No, it's a proper organization. That means we're doing well.
Yeah.
And we met, I think, in 2004 or something, back when we were competing, traveling, but we're still in this sport. Like, what made you go from a kiter to education technology, and then owning a kiteboarding brand? Like, what's the deal? For me, it was this really weird circle, because kiteboarding was obviously always a passion for me and kind of a job when I was younger. And then college, I studied education, became a school teacher, went to grad school for education policy. During that time, I was working with a school and had the opportunity to start a software company, education software company, with a good friend of mine who was much more technologically savvy than myself. And really, that would not have happened if it wasn't for kiteboarding. All of the connections, the investors, all really happened thanks to the network I cultivated as a kiteboarder. And I could say that, my college education, my grad school education were all important, yes, but really, like, I'd say the 2 things that led me to where I'm today were obviously my family, and secondly was the network I created kiteboarding. So I had that software company for several years, sold it to a group, was trying to kiteboard more and more, and then the opportunity came to get more involved with Cabrinha. We formed an investment group, American kiteboarders, 4 of us who took it over, and I act as chair of the group. So I'm not the owner; I'm one of the owners. But yes, you're looking well on the chair there, mate.
No, thank you. Well, it's a comfy chair. So to me, it's Cabrinha. The opportunity to be a part of Cabrinha wouldn't have happened without the the software company, and the software company wouldn't have happened without kiteboarding. So it's sort of me going around this crazy loop. And
kiteboarding keeps giving back, huh?
It does.
It keeps dragging you back in, and I don't know. It is a passion for life, right? Like, you create lifelong friends. You're kind of on the same wavelength, and we just vibe. But going back to the software, what kind of education software was it?
It was software that helped students at the end of the day deal with the pressures of standardized testing. So I know you'll have to forgive me, and I'm not as familiar with the European education system, but in America, state testing, standardized testing is a huge part of not just going through school, but eventually going to university, college. And, there's a sort of a black hole of how do we better prepare for this? And so our software helped try to get teachers and students, inevitably, better prepared and sort of removed the curtain of uncertainty to what that looks like. And so we had 160,000 teachers and students using the software within a few years, and had the opportunity to get out of it and put it to a bigger, more sophisticated group, and went that direction. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. That sounds really interesting. I mean, whole different ball game. I mean,
a little different.
Yeah, but still, you're very intrigued by the business side, and you're a clever human being. So, yeah, what is the journey of Cabrinha looking like? Because we also have a fine history with Cabrinha, dating well back to the beginning of Kitemana, actually. Jacques van Houten, the Cabrinha agent from the beginning, he actually was the first one that offered Kitemana to sell his kites online. So that was a great help for us. And yeah, Cabrinha has been, I think, the biggest brand in the world back in the day, and then it kind of went like this. So how do you see that? Yeah,
well, I mean, there were certain things. So Cabrinha was started by the Neil Pride organization. They had factories in Asia. An amazing human, Mr. Neil Pride. Obviously had the windsurfing brand and all this, and there were things that both the Neil Pride group and Pete Cabrinha and all the the original Cabrinha team that they cultivated that were like unbelievable parts of the brand history. And these are things, and I've always felt like Cabrinha was a very family-oriented group. We always did our best to focus on product quality. And those are things that when we took over, we wanted to make sure we maintained and more. There were other things that were, a part of a bigger organization that we might not have necessarily aligned really well with. Neil Pride was purchased by another group in 2012. And I think there was too much of a focus on those priorities. And I think that's where we saw in the market Cabrinha fluctuate, really. And so when we took over just a few years ago, we really wanted to focus on the great things, the family values, supporting the kite community as much as we could, and really enjoying our time in the water. And now that we are sort of an American-based, smaller business, not necessarily important to be American, but the fact that we are a small group of investors that all love the sport, all understand the sport and the people in it, I think our priorities are a bit more aligned with the things that made Cabrinha great from the early days. Obviously, during COVID, there's been a lot of crazy changes, but I think I hope people start to see either now or soon the things that really matter most to us.
Amazing, bringing back the good vibes and the stoke into the brand. That's amazing, and definitely good luck with that, because I don't think it's easy for any brand after COVID to sustain numbers or manage cash flow, or even your team. Everything has gotten more expensive, team riders wanting more, and the sport, is it growing, is it decreasing? Like, what do you see the industry at?
I think we're really lucky that we're seeing some changes. And from any business's point of view, for a consistency basis, any major changes are scary. They're always scary. Luckily, I see growth in the future. I think a lot of people have thought originally that winging would cause a decline in kiteboarding. I personally don't see that. I see, yes, some changes in certain areas where winging is much more conducive to the environment, whether it be because it's hard to launch a kite or it's not that windy, whatever it may be. Yes, we're seeing explosive wing growth. And I think we should all be really grateful for that, not just for our companies, but for the sport of kiting. I think it's a good thing. It's, when you bring people into wind sports, whatever way you bring them in, it gets them interested in other wind sports. So I'm seeing plenty, for just as much as kiters seeing that, hey, winging is a better fit for where they live or what they like to do. For every one of those, I'm also seeing people who start winging who were too scared to kite that say, okay, well, I think I could try this now. I understand the wind better. I understand why people do these sports and why they want to be on the water without a motor, or and want a more sort of sustainable adventure on the water. For me, wind sports, whether you're doing the wing or the downwinding or foil surfing or kiting, all these things driven by the wind. There's just something innately connected about all of them, and I think the more entry points we make for people, the better the whole picture is. So,
for sure.
A lot changing between the products, how we use the products, the industry, how the products are sold in the industry, but that one point of being like, hey, let's get more people in these sports and connected to them. So I think all these changes are really for the better end result of it. I think it's going to bring more people in, more interest, and more people, more interest, hopefully, and more sustainable and more
friendly.
But I think it gives, when you go from, and I feel like we're doing it now, from a small niche sport to something that's a little bit bigger, we're providing opportunities for people. Like, we were talking about last night, people on our age where the career path for what it looks like to be a young team rider into the industry, very unclear. And I think now it's starting to become more and more obvious that there is this really clear path. And I think it's giving young people aspiring opportunities to say, oh, like I could do this for life. Maybe not as, a Red Bull King of the Year rider, for 30 years, but going from team rider to salesperson to ambassador or product manager to marketing managers. I think we're seeing this more and more, and that feels great to me because everyone in our company really has kind of come through the group in a certain way. I mean, our brand manager, Dave Hastelow, is the perfect example of this. I met Dave when I was 16 in Florida. We were on a sort of a sales demo trip together. He was a sales rep in the Caribbean. I did some demos and some support for Cabrinha in Florida and the East Coast. Now Dave is the brand manager, and I'm fortunate enough to be one of the shareholders. So that's really cool.
That's really cool. And I think we all have this passion, and it just keeps drawing you back in. I've also thought about maybe I should do something else with my life, and kiteboarding has been nice for the past 15, 20 years, whatever. But it's like, it's my passion. It's like whenever the trees are moving, like I'm getting drawn to the community, to the sea, connecting myself with nature, finding that peace out at the sea, And I think it's great if you can also work a business around it. What are some of the challenges to keep flowing nowadays? Making products, you have to innovate. You have to sell the products. You have to manage your team. What are some of the exciting and more difficult challenges now?
I mean, the more difficult things, I think, since we've taken over, is obviously dealing with a vastly changing environment with COVID. That's been obviously the unexpected part of the job. Obviously manufacturing is always a challenge, dealing with those priorities. I'd say that the exciting part for me is the people, right? This is, the product is fun when it's fun, and it's not fun when it's not fun with factories and all this, but it's really the enjoyment that people have by getting on the water. I think I don't know, again, this is maybe an American sentiment, maybe it's a worldwide one. Sometimes it's hard to know. But people always tell you, like, pursue what you're passionate about. And, it's passions kind of change on a daily basis. And a really good friend and mentor of mine kind of told me once, like, really you got to do sort of the things you find valuable right now. And, we make water sports equipment to give people a really good time on the water. It's an outlet for them, right? We're not saving lives, making medical equipment. That's obviously the value in that is clearly, unmeasurable compared to what we do. But I do take a lot of pride in the fact that, people work hard and they need an outlet. They need to get outside. They need to enjoy sports, and water sports, wind sports, to me are, every time somebody does it, it's hard. You don't hear about a lot of people getting into these sports and then ever getting out of them. It's a lifelong thing. And, to me, to be that little part of their daily life where it's like, hey, like, had a rough day at work, had a long day at work, but I got on the water now and that made everything worth it. I take a lot of pride and value in that.
Amazing. I think there's a nice word for it. It's called mudita in the Sanskrit language. Mudita means enjoying somebody else's happiness or somebody else's success. So it's really nice if you see somebody happy and you really thrive on their happiness, basically. I think that's a really powerful thing. But what else does the industry need to grow and make this sustainable for the next gen?
I'm actually going to put a little bit of the responsibility for that on the next gen, because I think there's clearly things that we could do infinitely better as an industry, Recently I was lucky enough to join the AWSI, which is the American Water Sports Industry Association, thinking about things that we can do to help support the industry. But I think honestly, we can do all the things that we want. And like the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I think the responsibility goes on to the next gen to, instead of, it's so accessible to learn about all this stuff now, whether it's board design, kite design, building products yourselves, learning about these things. Like this is, the world is infinitely more available to learn about all these things. There's not so many hidden doors anymore. And, we have a lot of team riders who are really interested in becoming designers or involved in the product development. And what the best way to do it is just start doing it. Whether it's taking an old surfboard and hacksawing the nose off and then putting some fiberglass on to see what that does, just start doing it. I think it's just so easy now. You could download surfboard building software for free and just start learning about it. There's so much information about the most unbelievable minute details of aerodynamics and hydrodynamics designs, information about building your own stuff. No brand can give you the resource that is the internet
available,
and Google and willingness to learn.
100%.
So it really falls on them to start that process, and then when an opportunity comes to work at a brand, and you've done what you can to get a foot in the door from a relationship point of view, and also sort of building your own skills. I think the jobs are available for people who are motivated to do that. I think all brands are looking for those kind of people. Yeah,
and definitely in the future. And I think, you can find it in different avenues. So there is something there for everyone, even if you're in media or advertising. You can be part of the kiteboarding industry in the future for sure. You don't have to become world champion. You don't have to compete at all. You can even run a competition, organize a competition, start your own team, be creative. So I think that's very fun.
Yeah, look at the SpaceX boys, right? That's a great example of, they had a vision for what they wanted to do, and they did. They
fucking around with a bunch of friends, great.
Yeah, having a great time. It's that's I think they'll look back in 10, 15, 20 years, and pretty sure they'll say that was the time of their lives.
100%. They're going after it, living in the moment and sending it all together.
I know that I want to jump in a van and follow them around. I don't know where they are, but
100%. Yeah, spending time with your friends and your loved ones is important. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, what is your plan after this trip?
I got to go home after this. I'm on a flight tomorrow. I got to get back to the baby boy and newborn. But
nice.
Yeah, I actually, when I was planning out, I've been to a few countries and visiting a few places. I really wanted this to be the last stop, because this to me is, like I said in the beginning, one of the kite meccas that I haven't really had the opportunity to see. My list of sort of my bucket list of major kite spots is shrinking too quickly now. So
that's it. Cape Town, have you been to Cape Town?
No, there's a couple big ones left, but Cape Town is, I'd say, the biggest well-known one that I haven't been to.
Nice. So what is one of your favorite spots in the world?
Cabo Verde.
Cabo Verde, you love the wave riding, huh?
I loved
Kite surfing.
Watching Me Too growing up.
Yeah.
He was a huge inspiration for me.
And for me, for everyone.
Yeah, and both from his skill, but also you can listen to people and just know that they're good people. Me Too. I don't think you can meet somebody who wouldn't put him in that category. He has inspired a huge generation of riders there. Our newest member, Henrik Lopez, incredible. And so I got the opportunity to go to Cabo Verde last year, Sal, and ride the wave at Ponta Preta, which totally big slice of humble pie for the old guy here, but
Fair
ton
enough.
of fun. If you said, John, pick a spot to go for a week right now, I wouldn't,
risk it for the biscuit,
pre-decided,
right?
Yeah.
No, I was there in 2003 for the first time when I was in the Coolskin team, and I remember just being impressed by this powerful wave. And I was never wave riding or surfing really. And then I just hopped into blind and was riding down this little wave and just crashed a few times in these barrels. I was like, what? This is crazy.
It's a very technical wave. It's really,
I'm not that technical. I'm just full power bump, steam train ahead. But yeah, all in all, really good fun. So, as an owner of a kite brand, was it what you imagined that you will be doing, or what is your role actually?
Yeah, it's funny. Because it's a sport that is so close to my heart, and I obviously know a decent amount about the products. But I also, I'm not a day-to-day employee, right? I've got an amazing CEO, Kent Morankovic, who's been with the Neil Pride Group for 25 plus years, Olympic windsurfer, somebody who is vastly more experienced than I am on really running the business. But obviously, being one of the owners, I want to make sure that I feel like my voice is heard, and I think I certainly try. And I think people who know me know that I'm probably harder on my own opinions than the opinions of others. I aspire to do that. I don't think I always do a great job, but I try my best. But so my level of involvement really varies. I think there's some people ask me questions about the business, and I have absolutely no idea, and they think that's 101. So I think there's certain things that I'm much more involved around, giving feedback on the product and where we'd like to see the product go. I'd say I'm pretty heavily involved on a day-to-day, especially I live in Florida, light winds. So I give a lot of feedback on the product, and I'm really fortunate enough to work with people who can take that feedback and make sure it's good for our business. Because that's something, and luckily I'm surrounded with a team of people who can find that balance between sort of respect and candor, because it's hard to be direct with an owner, but luckily I feel like I have the relationship with these people, and there's a mutual respect there, whether it's a salesperson or our team manager to brand managers. So, and luckily, when we took over, we had so many of these amazing people still in place. So again, whether that's our brand manager, David Hasselow, our CEO, Kent Morankovic, our VP of sales, Todd Grayo, who, I lived with Todd when I was younger. So, when we say Cabrinha is a family group, I don't think people understand it's not like a marketing thing where, we're family. It's like literally, we've all basically grown up and lived together.
Tight-knit group. I like it.
Yeah.
That's good, man. And then also, of course, your R&D team, your designers, because just before you took over Cabrinha, I think the designer, Pat Goodman, he left, and now he's back? Or
He's
what
back,
was the story with that?
Well, before we got involved, the group that owned the Neil Pride Group, so their parent company, was financially distressed through really at no fault to the Cabrinha business. The Cabrinha business was a profitable business, but the other businesses they owned were massively in debt, multiple times over the value of the Neil Pride Group. So no amount of profits in Cabrinha or these other groups would cover, and the investment and the money available for Cabrinha to be successful was no longer available. So, I think it's important for people to know that, the Cabrinha team was doing great. It was unfortunately just outside factors that drove them into a really bad state. And that's when the opportunity, and as much as I hated seeing that, but being such a big fan of Cabrinha, that same mess gave me the opportunity to get involved. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible. So yeah, there was a huge, there were several departures from the company. Without a doubt, the biggest loss was Pat Goodman. And the day I took over effectively with the other owners was the day I, wanted to get Pat back. I mean, it wasn't really the same family without Pat around.
So what did you do to get him back?
It took a while. Obviously, he had a contract with another group, and we've had a relationship for many, many, many years, and I stayed in touch with him about that relationship and how much it meant to me, and if there was ever an opportunity to work together again, that I would do anything to make that happen. And so eventually, one day, an opportunity came up, and the next day, he was back. It feels like a little bit of a dream, honestly, because it happened. It was sort of a lot of waiting, and then all of a sudden happened all at once. It took, I think it was a year and a half. The time has gone by so quick. A year and a half after we took over, we were able to get him back on board and
get back to creating amazing products, because he's got a nice stack of amazing products to his name.
Yeah, and not only Pat Goodman, but our other designers, Brody Sutherland, our product manager Lars Molthrop. These guys are all just amazing at what they do. Not just the work they do on a daily basis, but then also having to tolerate me and my crazy feedback and having to take, that crazy feedback and actually apply it is sometimes a challenge for them,
I think that comes also with a good relationship and a long relationship where you just you know each other in and out, and you know what you can say and how to take things, and that's how you grow as a team and come out on top with winning products. So that's really great. I actually remember flying the first Switchblade I think it was in 2009 when it came out.
No, the first Switchblade is 2006.
2006, oh wow. It was in the gorge. Slingshot had gotten me one to test, and I was like, boom! I went up like 20 meters and flew 100 meters far. It felt like a jump like this, It was like, whoa, what is this? And you just shoot out, and then you come down, and whoop! And it was an incredible feeling. And I think that's been one of the best selling products ever since for Cabrinha, the Switchblade.
It's always been our best selling product. I don't know how we would quantify this. I'm pretty sure it is the most sold kite in the world today.
Yeah, wow.
It's got to have, if it's not that, it's, I don't know what would be, to be perfectly frank. But the Switchblade has been a great product. Major improvement in the last year, I think. This Switchblade's always been a good kite, but I think it's really evolved in a way that is more towards the modern kiter today.
Bit more forgiving, but still stable and powerful.
Yeah, and I think it was actually one of your videos recently that talked about the kites having a big sweet spot or a small sweet spot, and I think that's the exact way to think about a kite, because the honest truth is, you can buy the most performance kite on the market, and it needs to match your ability in those types of conditions. Because one thing that's great about the Switchblade is you can mistime a jump, send it, jump. Going to have a pretty good jump no matter what. Could you take a more advanced kite like the Nitro and have a bigger jump? Absolutely, but you got to time everything just right. It's got a smaller sweet spot. Yeah. So can you jump bigger on a Nitro? Can you have better performance? Can you go upwind better on a Nitro? Yes. But more consequences if you're not timing things perfectly. Yeah. So even I personally ride a Switchblade. Like if I'm in a condition that I'm less comfortable with, once it's like 30 knots, when I'm starting to say, I back off a little bit, that's the time I switch to a Switchblade. And everyone's a little different.
100%.
Some people might feel uncomfortable in 20, some people 25, some 30. Some people like you, it's like, you ride any kite in any condition, you're comfy. But
I was pretty comfy on the Moto-X Apex, which I was riding with Hannah in South Africa as well. And even just changing the settings on this and it made such a big difference. It made it so easy, so light, and it was a very, very good kite. How is that one performing?
Everyone's really liked the Moto. It's definitely been Pat, when he came back, that was the first major change. Okay. And it's funny, I actually had a good friend test the first 12 meter with me on the beach, because that's been a bit more of the process now, where the light wing kites, we do more testing in Florida. We have a great team in Florida of everything from our CEO and VP of sales are all in Florida.
You've always been a light wing guy.
Yeah, we're great with light wing kites. So with this new ownership change, we've really focused on testing these in more real world conditions. And it was crazy. I had a beginner kiter try the Moto. It was light. It was 12, 13 knots against the Switchblade, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is a much. I love the Moto. I love the Moto. The Switchblade, I'm not sure about it. I think the Moto is better." Came back to me 3-4 days later. It's blowing 20. Now you're lit on 12s. We go out, and there was waves. It was rough conditions, gusty. Took out the Moto. Oh yeah, I was a little uncomfortable. I didn't exactly know where to go with the kite, and then took out the same Switchblade. He's like, "Oh, what did you do with this one? This one's much better." Yeah. And he didn't know it was a Switchblade because these are all prototypes. Yeah. And I was like, "That's the same kite from the other day." And it really just showed that that the Switchblade, where it shines is where it's got that really nice, comfortable sweet spot, and the Moto a bit more lively and playful. So when you're in very comfortable conditions, I think most people, especially like average weight or lighter people, are going to thrive on a Moto. In more, if you're a bigger guy or you're in a bit rougher conditions, the Switchblade is just gonna kind of make everything easy and fun.
Yeah, easy and fun. I mean, I kind of like it, especially as I get older. Just give me easy, efficient, and fun kite. Yeah, I mean, there's so many different disciplines, and you obviously love to do what the conditions offer, but what you actually love most is also kite surfing in the waves, and I've seen you ripping on the drifter. Give me the story about the drifter, because I hear a lot of people raving about it.
Yeah, it's. I think the drifter doesn't get the attention it deserves. I think when we think of Cabrinha, we think of the Switchblade, and when we think of Big Air and Cabrinha, we think the Nitro and the Moto being this sort of great versatile kite. But if I was going to say, what is the most purpose-built, undeniably most dedicated kite to a discipline that any brand really has produced, and certainly ours, is the drifter. I mean, that is a no-excuse wave kite. Now, it's amazing for other things as well. It's actually, I recommend schools to use it quite often. It has all the great qualities a school wants. Easy to fly, relaunch is easy, has a nice consistent pull because it sits a little further back in the window. But yeah, it's a kite we're immensely proud of, and doesn't really, I think the reason it doesn't get talked about a lot is simply because it's
small discipline.
Yeah, it's a small discipline too, but it's so undeniably the right kite for waves.
And what makes it so good? Obviously the drifting capabilities.
Yeah, and I think a lot of other, there's so many great wave kites out there. So, I think what sets the drifter a little bit apart in wave kites is some wave kites, I think the idea of drift is to back up in the window. And you end up with a kite that literally is ending up moving forward and back, which is not something you want when you're trying to ride most waves. You really want a kite that just doesn't stall, but it has the ability to stay in one spot. And somehow Pat has figured out, through being the crazy kite design genius that he is, how to make a kite that really doesn't stall, but it gives you that feel that it's still there.
Just sits there, hangs there. Yeah.
Somehow there's good air flowing through the canopy without pulling you off the wave. I don't know how he does it. That's the great part about my job, is I don't have to figure out how he does it. I just have to enjoy it. It's, the drifter's the only kite that every year I ask for a production quiver of them. All the other kites I'm testing, it's either, trying this or testing that. But, when I have time for myself to just go have fun, I have a 7/9/11 drifter, and that will work for me. And, from 35, 40 knots all the way down to, 12, 13 knots of wind, those three kites. And yeah, I couldn't be more stoked about that product. And I think, we've got some new iterations coming that I think will literally blow people's socks off, where we've taken clearly the most dedicated wave kite on the market and made it infinitely better.
No way, even. That's cool. And I mean, you're a very good kite surfer. Any tips for our viewers here? How to ride the best down the line wave? How to make your bottom turn? What are some of the key wave riding tips?
I'm probably I don't think I'm this great
you're
rider.
You're a teacher. Come on.
No, I think I'm horrific at explaining. There's some kite coaches out there, pro riders, are so good at explaining it. To me, if we're talking about getting people into wave riding more, I think the most important thing they can do is not bring their twin tip to the beach. A lot of people make the mistake, they bring both boards down because they're like, I don't know if the strapless thing or the wave board, maybe it's not for today. I think the way you get good at stuff like that is you got to dedicate some time to it and not go back and forth too much. Twin tips are amazing, but I think the surfboard requires a bit more dedication to get down really good. But my only other tip would be make sure to use a product that is akin to what you're trying to do. So if you try to ride a wave with a kite that sits too far forward, it's going to be really hard. So hopefully everybody can get an opportunity to demo a kite like a drifter if they're learning surfboard wave riding. It makes it fun and easy, and it makes you want to try new things. There's nothing worse than using a product that's not designed to do it, and you're like, well, I don't understand why people like it. It's like, well, you're not really quite doing it. It's like driving a car and being like, I don't understand why people like riding motorcycles. Well, maybe ride a motorcycle and see if you like motorcycles.
Yeah. It's very painful to see some people trying to jump on like a wave kite. It's like they're trying to do big air on this thing that doesn't give them lift and float, and it's just like, it's not made for that, please.
It doesn't have that nice smooth catch. It's a totally different product.
Yeah, I'm not great on a waveboard. I feel pretty clumsy on it. Strapless or straps, what do you recommend when the one or the other?
I actually think most beginners are scared of the strapless. I think it's really important that they learn on, as long as, the conditions allow it, it's better to learn strapless. You understand what happens when you move your feet in different places. You get to experiment with that versus once the board's on a strapped, you just lock them in there and hold on tight. And surfboard for me is a little bit more of a finesse style of riding, and you got to understand what different foot placement does. And that's a bit of the beauty about it. And I think that's why most kite surfers end up not riding straps. Not that there's any problem with straps. In the right conditions, they're amazing. Why wouldn't you do that? But 100%. If you're keen to learn kite surfing, I would definitely recommend. Take the straps off the board, learn it. Learn it not the right way, but the way that gives you more feels and feedback quicker. The foot straps, you won't get that kind of feedback.
Exactly. You're locked in position, and you can edge easier. You can put the power through it, but you don't get as technical with the board and the skills that way.
You can clearly see when someone's learning a surford and they're riding foot straps, just plowing edging, water. It's like use the fins.
Yeah, exactly.
Ride the board.
And you said that the SpaceX boys, Stino and Michiel, they're sending it on the Nitro big time. Stino also, he just progressed over the past few years, entering the competitions and really showing that he's got style, that he's got balls, he's got the height on that Nitro.
And I think you'll be really surprised. I think customers will be surprised to see if they pay close attention in the next year or two. You'll see more of these riders actually riding our other models in competition, depending on the conditions. Because it's not. I think even right now I've explained our products in a way where you'd think a more advanced rider or a more basic rider would prefer a kite based on their ability, but I think it's really also it's a combination of ability and condition.
100%.
And when you see one of the top riders in the world riding a Switchblade or a Moto in a certain condition, I think you might say, oh, well, that kite's not just for this one person; it's for that person in that condition. And
very good point. I think in competition it all comes down to managing the conditions as best as you can, and sometimes it's not the highest performing kite that works in these conditions. No, you need a little bit of an easier performing kite that can handle the conditions, so you can still pull off all your tricks and land them, because that's how you win competitions.
You want to be able to push your equipment to the edge. You don't want to be holding your equipment back.
Yeah, nice, very cool. And in terms of sales, how is everything performing these days? Because we've also kind of seen after COVID, a lot of products going out on sale. How do you see that kind of coming into play?
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate. COVID was a great opportunity for a lot of people, but the economic boom that occurred during COVID, in pretty much every outdoor industry, you can look at from. There's very clear market data from major outdoor sporting goods suppliers to various industry data, cycles, bicycles, cycling companies, kiteboarding, all these outdoor sports, kayaks, electric bikes, all this stuff. Huge demand during COVID with limited supply, more retailers, more distributors, everyone ordering more and more and more. As that goes up the supply chain, right? If a retailer needs 20% more, then the distributor orders not just 20% more, but 20% more for everybody. And the brand orders 20% more than that to cover and to hope for growth. And then, post-COVID, a sharp decline of these things in a mass overproduction. So, I think we're going to continue, unfortunately, to see some oversupply affect retail prices for a bit longer. I think we are absolutely on the other end, on the decline of that now. I think people will be surprised that in the next several months or a year, it's actually might go the other direction because orders have declined sharply, right? The bullwhip effect is what the economics folks call it, and there's just a delay between consumer demand and product development. So I do think we're actually going to go the opposite way, where all of a sudden you start to see your favorite new model not be as readily available because
so get them now.
Yeah. So no, it's true. It will happen. People think it's it's kind of a crazy thing to think that we would go from such heavy undersupply during COVID to such oversupply to again undersupply. It's an inevitability. There's
and it's hard to predict, right? Like how many new kiters are going to be here, how many kiters are going to quit. Like how big do you think the industry is? Like how many kiters are there worldwide?
I there's some industry
Give me a number.
data. Yeah, it just depends on how some people who kite 4 times a year, they consider themselves a kiteboarder.
No,
right?
if they buy kites, they're kiters. So how many do you think?
I think what I would consider active participants, so people who at least get on the water either seasonally or if they can't really ride where they live, but they make time to go on vacations for kiteboarding. I think absolutely 250,000 worldwide.
250,000?
Yeah, active.
Active, okay.
Yeah, not the guy who kites once or twice a year.
Okay, I mean, he's still a kiter in my eyes. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
He's probably not even watching this video. He's doing something else, probably busy with his family or his job. But active kiters, yeah, so...
Yeah, I mean, this number could dramatically go up or down based on, whether you're thinking just units sold or people who are... But I think people who are actively buying, actively riding, really make it like it's their sport. Yeah. But no, I think that number can double or more if you're thinking of people who will, own a kite and it, maybe it's been sitting in the garage for 2 years and the next weekend trip, their 2 friends say, hey, it's great wind and we don't want to play golf or do whatever. Yeah. That number dramatically increases.
Yeah. The number one reason why somebody should start kite surfing.
I don't think we should I think we should tell them everyone should try it and make it the decision for themselves because they're always going to make the same one, which is, oh my God, I got to do this more. There really is no, every time you sort of take the next step, you just realize it's sort of limitless on what you can do. And I think it gives you especially kiteboarding more than other wind sports, the ability to just say, hey, like I don't need to be a pro guy to have this huge adrenaline rush in a really safe way and jump 15, 20, 30 feet in the air. There's no other sport quite like that.
100%. And how would you recommend somebody to get into the sport?
Take a lesson. And, whether it's, you have a great school center in your local area, I always tell people, make a trip with your friends. Go to a great destination. Come here to Amsterdam.
Freeze your balls up.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Go to Egypt or Brazil or Greece or whatever you do, but don't come learn in the Netherlands. However, we do have some wind and we do have a lot of nice spots and a lot of good kite schools, so you're more than welcome to learn it here as well.
But come with a friend.
That's always more fun, learning things together.
I don't think, and if you moved to the middle of nowhere and it was decent conditions, you'd probably still kite, but would you do it as much?
No, with a friend, it's always so good to do downwinders together, or just to have your kite buddy there. It's incredible, definitely.
Friend, family, whatever. Learn with somebody, and that way.
I think before somebody actually goes to a kite school, there's so much information to be found online. People can be so well prepared for their first kite lesson, so that they know what the journey is kind of going to look like, instead of showing up blank at your kite school and saying, "Okay, explain me the drill." You can prepare yourself so good.
And you know what is. As much as kiteboarding is an independent sport, it is a community. People are so willing to go out of your way to help you. And people always ask, I'm sure you've gotten the question, every kiteboarder's gotten the question, well, why does everybody go to the same spot? Why do we do that? Yeah. It's because we want to be a part of a community together. We want to help each other. And I would guarantee you could go to pretty much any kite spot in the world that's, a beginner-friendly spot. If you show up to, a 20-foot wave spot and try to go kite there. Okay, maybe you're not going to get as much encouragement. But if you go to a normal spot where it's good for learning, even if you have no idea, if you just go up to people, ask the right questions, where do I go learn? What do I do to learn? How much is it going to cost to learn? Any tips? Where can I buy the stuff? What should I buy? Everyone's willing to help. You just got to open up, ask. We're just a group of people, and I can't speak for all kiteboarders, but from my experience, all kiteboarders seem to be very keen on helping. Yeah, beach bums.
Nice one. Jon, thank you so much. So good catching some hang time with you, and looking forward to have a nice dinner by the beach with you. And,
yeah,
thank you so much, brother.
Thanks, man. Always good seeing you.
Nice. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And let me know who you would like to see in the next Hangtime Podcast with Ruben Lenten. Much love, guys.